Welcome to another episode of You Had Me at Cheese, where my girlfriend, Venus, and myself, Eclipse, explore the many different aspects of the human experience. We are here with our selection of cheeses, and Venus has a glass of wine ready, so feel free to bring your favorite snack and join the party. Listener, I am so excited for today's episode. In the next 40-odd minutes, we are going to learn more about Venus's transition. And more importantly, we are going to talk about everything that happened before the transition. Because transitions don't happen in a vacuum. So what led to it? We are going to talk about the telltale signs as early as 6 years old, learn about the egg cracking moment or the moment of realization, and talk about the struggles of isolation and lack of connection. Through this episode, you're going to learn more about Venus, and I hope that by the end of it, you see, just like me, how amazing she truly is. Alright, so before we talk about your transition, can we talk about the before? What were you like as a person before you transitioned?
I was introverted and secluded, and I felt quite closed off to diving into my emotions or showing others my emotions. I really struggled with who I was as a human, as a person. I think that's what drove me to actually kind of focus on other things and fixing things and all the skills that you appreciate around the house.
I do appreciate all your fixing skills.
Yeah. Maybe that was like an escape in a way. Just felt like I never really fit in or was truly accepted. Maybe I had a few friends that I would say they were close, but looking back at it, we never really dived deep into who we are as humans, never really had that support systems in place, never really had each other's back in a deep way. It was quite surface level when I go back and look at it. I have always saw myself as a very optimistic and happy person and very positive and always wanted the best for others, but somehow I missed applying all of that to myself.
So your friends at the time, sounds like, didn't really know you deeply?
No, I think that was a part that I would hide from them.
And so my next question is, do you think you knew yourself back then?
I knew there was something different. I knew that I was attracted to certain things that didn't fall into a male gender space.
So when you say you were attracted to things that weren't necessarily compatible with how society described what a man should be, what were those things? What does that look like?
There was something always about clothes. I even remember when I was young and I was like 6 years old, or like there was multiple times it happened throughout my early childhood where my mom would caught me wearing something of hers, and looking back at it, I was too young to understand why I was doing those things. It felt quite natural, like, oh, I see people wear these things, I should wear them too, right? But it wasn't for me, and I think it being pulled away from me, kind of like, oh, you're doing it wrong, kind of put me into the closet, so to speak, and regressed me of being able to share this as I was growing up. In my early preteens, all my friends were mainly girls, and I felt like I was one of their like girlfriends. There was attraction and, like first kisses and stuff, like with those same friends, but I just felt like that's where I fit better
With girls.
with girls. I never really was interested in sport. I was never really interested in, just walk it off, you're a guy or you're a man or whatever. No, that never made sense to me. In the gender, what's social norm?
So you mentioned dressing up in your mother's clothes.
It was like a
right?
bra or like
When you were 6
pantyhose or
or
something.
7.
Even earlier.
First of all, the fact that you have memories from that age is like so impressive for me.
I remember a memory from when I was 2.
Okay, we'll get into that in another episode, unless it's related.
No.
Okay. Tangent averted. So when you wore your mother's pantyhose or bra, etc., did she catch you?
Yes.
What was her reaction?
You shouldn't be doing this, You've done this wrong. You've done something wrong, and like tone, the facial expression. I remember it. Like how she reacted, kind of like maybe disappointed. I don't know exactly, but it wasn't embracing. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm sorry you experienced that. Do you remember what you felt? Like these are all disappointment, etc. Those are things that you got from her, that you felt like she felt at that moment.
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
I was just confused. Why are you taking this away? What's different than anything else I wear? I just didn't really have a separation on the two.
Did you ever do that again?
Yes.
After she caught you? That was a very quick response.
Yeah, well, it's true and it's easy to answer. There were a few times she did. And then later on in my life, like let's say my teens, when I would see something I was drawn to try it on, no. But I wouldn't like wear it and keep it on or something. It was just like, I was curious. What does it feel like? How do I look in this? There was something about clothes that drew me to it. And the gentleness of being around other women. And I just felt like that was my space. But somehow I was stuck of not being able to kind of go into it as one of them, if that makes any sense.
Did your friends, your girlfriends at the time, did they know?
No. I don't feel like there was anyone I could open up to.
Did you know any other trans people?
No. Or have anyone in my circle that I knew anyway. Maybe they were going through stuff too and they felt similar emotions and feelings and going through the same, kind of figuring things out phase.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of times we look at organizations or whatever. Like I remember personally, I was working in a big corporate and somebody made a comment about we were celebrating Pride Month or something like that, and somebody made a comment that, oh, there aren't any other queer people apart from this one person. And I'm sitting in that room and I'm like, that you know of.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big thing.
I think so
that
too.
we just assume everybody, and when I say we, I mean society, just assumes everybody is heterosexual unless it has been stated differently.
Yeah.
So back to you.
Yeah.
When was the first time that you met somebody who was queer in any way, shape, or form?
Like a year ago. Or maybe a bit more. It was only after.
After you transitioned?
Yeah. I know I knew some people who were like guys who were bi or kind of pansexual, but no one, like, definitely not. I never knowingly met a trans person and spoke to them about this and their experiences or anything like that.
So if you did know men who were bisexual,
Yeah,
are they queer?
I guess they're queer, but again, it was only after
Okay, so
I feel like after I came out and was like, hey, this is me and I'm changing. Suddenly there were all these people who felt comfortable telling me things about themselves, but no, it wasn't until that moment.
Okay, and so you go through life.
Yep.
And you have this infatuation with women's clothing.
For one, yeah.
And what else?
It was this just urge to have my nails done and my hair done and have a connection with people who on a deep level that, what was missing.
Did you get any of that done? Your nails, your hair, anything like that before you transitioned?
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Not really. I painted my nails like once maybe and tried a wig on. I even took photos, I think, when I was like 20 at the time. Because I was curious.
And at that point, there's no part of you that thinks,
this is funny to me because, like, how big of a rock did I live under? It was pretty big.
Tell me, how big of a rock was it?
It was huge.
Describe the rock.
So I didn't learn the word transgender and what it meant until near my 30s. And I didn't know that people transition like that. So I didn't know any trans people. I didn't know any queer people that I could talk to anyway and ask questions and be curious. I didn't know that people transition the way they do, the way I am going through. And I didn't know anything about HRT and this like medicine side of this medical medicine side of things, and I feel like I suppressed it for like 10 years. And it wasn't until a moment where I wanted to know, like, I'm going through life, and one of the things that came up was like anger. I started struggling with anger, and it wasn't until like I lashed out at my mom that I was like, okay, I'm not actually good. Kind of, like, it wasn't a big lash out, but it was enough for me to be like, oh, that's not okay. I shouldn't treat my mom with this kind of like shutting her down and comments of like, just leave me alone or whatever. That's my mom. She cares, And it wasn't until like that I started kind of really diving deep and figuring things out. And I know that like at 20, if I knew what I knew at 30, I would have probably have pursued transition at that time, but I didn't. And so 10 years later, I'm like, well, this is still bothering me. Deep down, there is something that I am holding or unable to let go. And it's like, okay, well, why? Why can't I let it go? What's this thing, that's driving me? And it was basically me looking into the online spaces like Reddit and Facebook and stuff, and trying to go to like trans pages and trying to find.
Did you know the name by then?
I did come across a page or a forum or like a post that
Mm.
talked about your egg cracking, and this is a very popular term in the queer community, especially.
Enlighten me, because clearly I'm in the dark about this.
Well, when
What
you,
is egg cracking?
so when your egg cracks is when you basically you can't go back in the box. So the egg is cracked now, and that's when you could suppress it and be like, oh nah 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 nah, for ages, for years you can say
Mm.
no to this thing, and then one day you're like, but maybe, well, that's your egg now cracking. Men don't really fantasize about being a woman.
Mm.
That's it's not about clothes, it's about being a woman, being that
Yeah.
whole kind of what a woman is, and everyone will have a different answer for this, but it's wanting or fantasizing about being this other person,
Mm.
looking differently, sounding differently, having different mannerisms, different group of friends, different life altogether, just like a whole shift
Mm.
compared to where they're now. So yeah, that is when your egg cracks, you're kind of, that's it. Like,
Your box is ripped open and that's it. There's no looking back.
there is no looking back. And so I think I came across that term, and from there I kind of stumbled myself into the trans community page and read other people's stories and read about kind of educating myself on all these things. And in just a few short months, I went from kind of very confused, dealing with like this anger issue, this like easily triggered in a way, agitated like all the time, and like even at work and stuff like that, to kind of having some hope that things will get better, because at that time previously I didn't see any hope.
When you say I was just angry, I had a lot of anger in me. Do you know what you were angry about?
Myself, it was an anger that I couldn't be who I wanted to be. I couldn't be myself, masking 24/7.
That's really tiring.
Very tiring, yeah.
Did you have an idea as to who you wanted to be?
Well, that's where that picture kind of started coming through. It was just becoming more and more clear around that point of who am I? That was at the forefront every day.
Can you describe her to me?
I remember compassion being something that was quite important. Like this person that I'm visualizing, I guess, who am I, is compassionate and kind and not being materialistic. Yeah. Because I guess at that point I was materialistic. I was focusing on more materialistic things,
Such as?
cars, computers.
And that's really not you now?
Not as much. It's not an escape. It's not a 24/7 kind of drive. I enjoy those things. But back then it was more about that's me, like that would define me, I guess.
How old were you when you had that realization that actually your body doesn't match who you are?
When I was going to turn 29 within that year, that's when things really shifted.
Was there a moment?
Yeah.
Do you remember that moment?
Yep, I was on the toilet. Classic. I was breaking down in tears and had a choice to make. Do I continue this identity and be miserable and continue being miserable because I couldn't see another option? Or do I dive deep and go into the uncomfortable and the difficult road of figuring out what is who am I really, and what does that mean to me? And there was just so many questions. But do I take this unknown path that I don't know about, or do I take this known path? And I had a vision in that moment on the toilet in tears, breaking down of being 60 plus years old and having this regret of not taking that other chance in that moment. So yeah, I think I took my phone out and I made a Tinder profile, and it came up, "What's your name?" And that's where my name came in. It was in this moment, this horrible moment that kind of gave me hope at the same time.
So we should thank Tinder, is what you're saying.
We should.
I mean, I think you have a lot of things to be grateful for in terms of Tinder, but
Yes, you're right.
of course I am. And so you choose your name and you write a profile.
Yep.
You're still on the toilet.
Yep. By the way, I'm not doing anything on the toilet. Like, I'm just sitting on the toilet because I was at my parents' home in that time. And I basically moved out. It was horrible. And I moved back in with them. And so I was away from my freedom in a way. And I just needed my space. My room wasn't going to cut it.
So that's another realization. So not only do you need to figure out who you really are, you also need to figure out another living situation.
Yeah.
Because you can't stay at your parents' house and
go through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though that sounds really hard, did you feel better once you...
In that moment on the toilet, yes. I basically walked in broken and I walked out with some hope.
It's a very transformational toilet. Very transformational toilet.
Very.
I don't know if there's a portal in there or... But I'm glad you came out the other side.
Yeah. And what my Tinder profile was all about was like just finding friends.
In your mental to-do list, the first thing was Tinder profile.
I guess.
Choosing a name.
Yes.
Looking for friends.
Yes.
What comes next? You've made this decision, which is huge. I've lived my life one way until now. I'm 29. I am miserable. This is not a life worth living for me, in a way, is what I hear you say. And you have made this decision, but you don't know anybody who had done it before. So what do you come up with in terms of next steps moving forward?
So the next steps were more about the physical aspect of things. I remember I started shaving, like my whole body, different outfit that were more like androgynous kind of style. Started using lotion a lot and sunscreen.
Very important.
Very important. And I just felt like I felt comfortable going and trying on clothes that make me feel comfortable and feel like it matches my gender, my identity, my this deeper inner self, because like I felt like I was bringing her out.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
in
She's
a way.
out now.
She's out now.
Out and roaring.
I remember going to sleep at nights and crying myself to sleep. And it's just like, I wanted to show the world who I am, who she is. It was like my wish.
Mm.
So that's kind of what entailed, I guess, after that moment, was just exploring it. What does it mean? Reading more people's stories and seeing other people's timelines. What are they doing, you know?
Mm.
And I kind of wished I learned earlier about the hair loss if you catch it early with finasteride. I wish I knew that at 29. It didn't take years before I started it.
When did you actually realize that?
I don't know, 3 years later, I think.
And I mean, realistically, shouldn't this be common knowledge? Not
It should
just
be.
for trans women.
Yeah, it's
In
interesting.
general.
It's interesting. No one from my friends group or anything mentioned it, spoke about it, or
Hmm.
like no one was aware, or maybe they were embarrassed. I don't know. But it- there was something, you know, and HRT kept coming up.
So, I do want to talk about that. So, you're 29, or you're turning 29, and you realize you want to change the way you've been living. At what point do you reach out to your doctor and ask to go on an HRT?
So 2 years after that point, I reached out to the doctor and went through the process.
Mhm.
And it took almost about 8 months, I think, until the HRT was in my hands. And to answer your question,
Mm.
was it right for me? I can't say I knew that. What happened is that there was this progression of figuring out who I am. I started changing my appearance, how I explored the world and explored my identity. And I was curious about HRT, and I kind of started reading up more about it and into it. And information is quite scarce. And what people would say is that you don't know until you know. And that was exactly why I kind of struggled to take so long, because I didn't know. And when I reached out, I knew I wanted to try. I wanted to know, will this fit me? I didn't know. I went through the process. I got it. I started it. And within a month, but it was actually more like 2.5 weeks, I knew, yeah, this is what my brain is much better working on.
Describe it to me. So, what happens in that 2.5 weeks time frame? What are the changes that you're noticing?
I mean, gender euphoria is one, but if you have asked me this back then, I wouldn't have used those words. You only get to learn gender euphoria and dysphoria as time goes on. So you kind of you have some experiences to pinpoint, oh, this was euphoria, this was euphoria, etc. So if you had asked me back then how I was doing, I would have said I feel vibrant and happy. I feel much more clarity in my mind, and I felt less burdened. That was like the main thing. And I don't know if that's testosterone that was causing that, or something else, but this fuel, that's how I refer to it. It's fuel. This fuel is better for my brain.
Yeah. A bit like some cars need diesel and some cars need the standard petrol. I don't know what the difference is. I assume that you do.
I do.
And not everybody understands or knows about the terms gender euphoria and gender dysphoria. So, what does that mean to you?
So euphoria and dysphoria are, I would say, better known terms. Euphoria is when you feel amazing within yourself. There is this experience that fills joy within you. This whatever it is, you feel amazing.
Mm.
And dysphoria is, I think, term that I didn't know. I didn't know the word dysphoria. As I was mentioning before, I didn't know the transgender community. I didn't know all these other words, right? I didn't know what dysphoria meant. And within that time, I learned what it was. I've never heard the word just simply dysphoria. I've never known this term. But for me, so dysphoria is the opposite of euphoria. You feel a huge lack, a huge
Like a mismatch.
or just something is really not right. So attaching gender to that, so gender euphoria, you're experiencing your gender in a very euphoric way, in a very like there is something happening where you feel your gender, you feel like you're treating your gender correctly in a way. So they could be even just someone, let's say, identify with she, her pronouns. They could be someone just calling you a sexy babe or
Hey, little Missy.
hi, using the term he, she or her, like referring to you as this girl or hey babe, even though babe is more unisex, but
hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey. Yeah, so I started at that time with HRT within those 2-3 weeks. I could say my gender euphoria was like shooting through the roof. So I felt much more comfortable in my body, and this medicine matched my brainwave state and matched my gender, and it just allowed me to be happier in my body.
I'm really happy you did it.
Me too. And it wasn't until then I knew this was right for me. So,
but you had to try.
But you have to try, yeah. So I'm glad I took that leap. There's no harm in trying it. You can stop it if it's not right for you. Some people find out, that's how they find out actually they're not trans. This wasn't euphoric to their gender. So that allowed me to see that very with a lot of clarity that yep, I am going in the right direction.
Yeah. And tell me, what did that do to your mental health?
Fucking wonders. I felt so, I think we all deal with depression and sadness and this mental hardship with lack of things. So that what that did for me is it just grounded me more. I feel like I was grounding myself, through having this clearer state of mind. And I started experiencing emotions on a much deeper level. Crying became quite a norm, even though I was already a crier before. And, now the waterworks come out, as you know. You can, I feel like if the wind blows the wrong way some days, I'm in tears.
Yeah. Cold does that to you sometimes.
So it really improved my mental health.
It's really good.
When the body and the mind aligned, that was the shift. So even dealing with depression and sadness and a lack of community, etc., I felt just a lot more hopeful and optimistic that I will get there. This is a process.
And it is. And we're always work in progress.
Yes, we are work in progress.
If you could talk to your younger self, I don't know. First of all, if you could talk to your younger self, what age would you choose?
I think that early age, that age of like 5, 6 years old, who was
That young.
who was curious in my mom's clothes and
All right. And so it's your younger self. You're 5, 6 years old. You're trying on
a bra.
a bra.
Yeah.
And then appears Venus
Yes. Poof.
in all your gloriness. What do you say?
I think I would say something something like it's okay. It's okay to do things that you find curious and to not let other people's opinions shift the way I think about myself. Wear all the clothes you want, be you, and that eventually things will make sense.
It will be okay in the end.
It will be okay in the end.
And if it's not okay now, then it's just not the end yet.
Exactly. I love that.
And I love you.
I love you.
To finish this episode, would you like to say one thing that you're grateful for?
I am grateful to have such an amazing girlfriend who cares for me so deeply, who shows me nothing but support and love, and who loves to share cheese with me.
I do love to share cheese with you. And all the rest of what you said. I do think it's a bit of a mirror to yourself.
It is.
You are very kind and you care for me so deeply. And it just goes both ways.
It's beautiful.
So we've reached the end of the episode. There are still so many questions to be asked.
So many. An infinite amount, almost.
Actually, an infinite amount. And we will continue this conversation another day. But for now, I hope you enjoyed your cheese and your wine and listening to us.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
We have reached the end of our episode and hope you have enjoyed your snack as well as our conversation. If you liked our podcast, we would truly love for you to leave a comment, rate our show, and share it with anyone who would benefit from our conversations. And if you didn't like our podcast, then don't worry about it.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.